In February 2025, I joined the Spring Academy for Sociocracy for All. And in this video, I want to share with you why I've chosen to go down the academy route and deepen my experience and knowledge of sociocracy, what sociocracy is, just in case you've never heard of it before and aren't quite sure what it is, and also what my experience has been like in the program so far and why I wanted to add this to my toolkit. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Lizzie Benton. I'm a company culture coach based here in the UK, and I support startups and small businesses in adapting and evolving their ways of working to improve their performance and create a great company culture. As I've said before in many of these videos, I am very dedicated to my personal development and my personal growth, and every single year I will set aside a budget to invest in a new course, in a new experience, in some new skills, to make sure that I'm always bringing my absolute A game, but also to make sure that I'm always expanding my knowledge and experience that I can bring to my clients. So when Sociocracy for All came up this year, as it had some space on the academy, I just knew that I wanted to join and deepen my practice, because I'd always heard of sociocracy within other realms of working, such as teal and self-management and self-organisation, and I'd attended webinars and read some of the books, but I really wanted to take it that step further and deepen my knowledge and practice of sociocracy. But before I go down to the deeper why, let me share with you what it is, just in case you're wondering, Lizzie, what on earth is sociocracy? Sociocracy is a dynamic self-governance system that decentralizes decision-making power. So in many traditional organizations, we have a traditional pyramid hierarchy where decision-making is centralized at the top, and all of the decisions have to go up to the top and then get fed back down. What obviously happens in this situation is there's no real power at the bottom. People do not have any true decision-making power over their work and how it gets done. Whereas in sociocracy, our aim is to decentralize as much decision-making as possible and also to create more participation. So how can we all be co-responsible human beings at work, making decisions about the work that impacts us and those around us? Although this seems like a very radical, alternative way of working that feels very new age, the reality is sociocracy is actually quite an old way of working. It was invented back in the 1940s by Kees Boek and Betty Cadbury at a Quaker school in the Netherlands. So that's where it has its roots, and it was then taken a step further by an engineer called Gerard Endenberg, who had actually been a student at this Quaker school, experienced sociocracy, and when he took over his parents' manufacturing company, he was like, hang on a minute, I would really like to bring some of this into the way of working. So that's where it kind of evolved and developed. So it is actually quite an old, in quotes, way of working, but we're just very used to this traditional pyramid hierarchy where everything is centralized. And what we really want to do is be decentralized, because that's where we're more adaptable, that's where we have more autonomy over how things get done, and we're much more able to adapt and be flexible in the volatile world that we sit in. So why did I choose to take the first step into sociocracy with the academy program to be a certified practitioner and facilitator? Well, I have for a long time specialized in alternative ways of working, and it's also a really big passion of mine. I find it so interesting in how we can use different systems and different practices to create something collectively more meaningful, more goal-orientated, and so many of the sort of traditional systems that we have in place just simply aren't fit for purpose. And so not only have I learned about teal and self-management and done many other courses which I've spoken about on this channel, Sociocracy just felt like the next natural step for me to learn more about and to add to my toolkit, because I really want to have a deep knowledge and understanding of all of the practices that are available to us in self-organization and self-management. So I really wanted to deepen my practice, deepen my knowledge in this specific area, because I felt like I had kind of a baseline of understanding. Like I said, I'd watched webinars, I'd read some books, but I wanted to really experience it much more fully and be able to support my clients if this is a practice or a method that they would like to go down. So for me, as a culture coach, it's all about having a really holistic portfolio of practices and frameworks that can support my clients. I've never been someone who wants to be really dogmatic that, oh no, you have to follow this framework or you have to do this. I find that incredibly limiting because it doesn't take into account the complexity of people in that organization, of the business, of the product or service that it provides. So I want to be as holistic as possible with all of my clients and have a very deep experience and knowledge of lots of different tools and frameworks that when we're working together, we can even pick and mix things that feel a best fit rather than feeling like, oh, we have to stick to this specific way. So that is why I wanted to deepen my sociocracy knowledge, because it's truly going to add something much, much deeper to my portfolio as a culture coach. I want to now share a little bit about the course experience. Now, you've got to understand I've only been in the course now for 3 months and it is a 6-month program. So yes, it is quite a time investment more than anything, and something you have to really show up for as much as possible. And so to give you a bit of a glimpse into how it's been so far, it is an international cohort, which I always love because people are in different places all over the world and using sociocracy in different ways, and getting to hear about their experiences and what's going on adds so much richness to the learning because each one is completely different, and I absolutely love that. So the international aspect of the program really brings a richness for me, and learning about how they're adopting sociocracy and adding it into their organization or into their practice. So for me, even just having that international experience, exposure, I suppose, is a brilliant way for me to learn even more deeply. The brilliant thing I find about the Sociocracy program is they really just want you to have theory and practice. So whereas I've experienced on some courses, it's just a lot about theory and you're not really practicing it, the one thing that really gets encouraged during the Sociocracy Academy is to practice, is to be able to go out there and play with it and actually do this live with either teams or organizations or the company that you're in, so that you are getting real life experience and starting to discover where some of the tensions are or where things might feel a bit strange. Because as we all know, you can't really learn something until you've practiced it and put it into your bones and found where those kind of pushes and pulls and tensions are. So I found this incredibly interesting, especially because you can know so much theoretically, but then when you experience something, it can feel very different. So I'm really enjoying that balance of theory and practice as well. So that was a very brief introduction into Sociocracy, why I'm doing the Academy program and why it's important to me and what the experience is like. And if you have any comments, do post them below. I would highly recommend, if this is something you're really interested in, is to actually get the Sociocracy for All book, Many Voices, One Song, because that not only gives you an introduction to sociocracy, but also explains all of the practice and the system dynamics that goes on. And of course, attend some of the webinars. Ted Rao puts on, I think, almost monthly webinars at Sociocracy for All, and they are always full of so much knowledge and experience and ideas, and definitely worth going to. So I hope you've enjoyed that brief introduction, and if you have any questions, also post them below because I'm more than happy to answer how the experience is going so far. But thanks so much for watching.